and the Johannesburg street band, Awe Mfana. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from Durban, South Africa. In our week-long exclusive at the United Nations Climate Change Conference, talks have entered their second-to-last day, but little progress appears to have been made on the key issues over extending the Kyoto Protocol or forming a green climate fund. The United States is refusing to accept any deal involving binding emissions cuts before the year 2020. Several U.S. environmental groups, including Greenpeace and the World Wildlife Fund, have accused the Obama administration of obstructing the negotiations and have called for the U.S. to step aside and let other countries carry on with the negotiations. Shortly before this broadcast, the top U.S. climate negotiator, Todd Stern, addressed the UN conference for the first time. But as he took the stage, a student from Middlebury College in Vermont named Abigail Borah interrupted the proceedings. We turn now to exclusive footage of the disruption.
Your Excellency, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
2020 is too late to wait. We need an urgent path to a fair, ambitious, and legally binding treaty. You must take responsibility to act now, or you will threaten the lives of the youth and the world's most vulnerable. You must set aside partisan politics and let science dictate decisions. You must pledge ambitious targets to lower emissions, not expectations. 2020 is too late to wait.
What is your name? What is your name?
Abigail Borah.
From which group? From which group?
The United States Youth.
Why did you just interrupt this forum?
The United States government does not speak on my behalf.
Excuse me. It's okay.
We just came from the General Assembly of this climate conference where the U.S. climate negotiator addressed the world gathering. As he was just about to speak, a young woman, a Middlebury College student from New Jersey, got up, named Abigail Borah, and she interrupted the proceedings. She said, 2020 is too late to wait. We need an urgent path towards a fair, ambitious, and legally binding treaty. The statement went on to say the U.S. continues to negotiate on time borrowed from future generations, and with every step of inaction forces young people to solve the quickly exacerbating climate challenges that previous generations have been unable and unwilling to address. We're going now to Todd Stern's news conference.
U.S. Special Envoy for Climate Change, Todd Stern. Thank you.
Hi, thanks everybody. I'd actually like to make a couple of comments at the top today. And specifically to address one point. There is a misconception running around and kind of gaining currency the way these things do that was exemplified in a report I saw in the press this morning, sort of attacking the U.S. for proposing to delay action on climate change until 2020. And I've heard the same thing from a variety of other sources, including people who should know better. And I was actually I just gave my, you have to give every head of delegation gives a plenary statement of a few minutes in the course of the days, and so I had the distinction of being heckled by somebody who was who had the same misconception. So I just want to clear that up.
Take a question from the woman in the first chair here.
I'm Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! In the United States. The young woman, the Middlebury student, Abigail Borah, said we need an urgent path towards a fair, ambitious, and legally binding treaty. Mr. Stern, as you pointed out, increasingly at this conference, the perception is that the U.S. is blocking any substantive progress toward legally binding agreement on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. 16 CEOs of environmental organizations in the United States said the same thing, that the U.S. is becoming the major obstacle here. Can you talk about the perception, as you've described it, of time out until 2020, when many of, for example, the African nations and the island nations are talking about they could be seeing very serious devastation? You yourself just pointed out there's a growing consensus here that the U.S. is blocking progress
in any kind of serious commitment to a legally binding mandate here?
Well, okay. So I will try to repeat what I said a minute ago on part of your question, then I'll take the other part. But it's not a timeout. I mean, it's not remotely a timeout. We reached an important agreement last year. We reached an agreement which, although it is not legally binding, it is a COP decision under a legally binding treaty, which is very serious and which covers more than 80% of global emissions, as compared to a Kyoto agreement, which people are hoping will cover something in the order of 15% this year. It's got nothing to do with the timeout. What is embedded in the Cancun agreement is so much more meaningful in terms of potential emission reductions than anything that is in Kyoto, that there's no contest. So I think, again, that's a misconception. Plus, and I won't repeat everything that I just said a second ago about all of the various actions that are going to be taken promptly, including the negotiation, first the preparatory work, and then the negotiation of a new regime, which, you know, the EU has called for a roadmap. We support that. I mean, I've talked with the EU at length. I've also talked with my friends from the BASIC countries and others. I mean, if there's a misconception, then it'd be a good idea for the word to get out that is just not accurate.
Top U.S. climate negotiator Todd Stern being questioned by Democracy Now! Today. We had been trying to interview him for the past week, ever since he happened to be on our plane from Johannesburg to Durban. Democracy Now! I was wondering if I could ask you a few quick questions. Just quick, one. How do you negotiate the climate change summit when you have an increasing number of Americans not even believing climate change is a problem, and more than half the Republican presidential candidates even calling climate change a hoax?
I've just flown for 20-something hours, so I would be happy to talk to you when we get there. But it's not a good time right now. Okay.